ChatGerry, Macro Artery Stability versus Small Vessel Damage, a 40-year look at my heart and stroke history, number 1503, VPT Sharp 063, January 14, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Category, Cardiovascular Disease. Preface, my stroke on June 21, 2025 did not happen suddenly, and it was not an accident. It was the final outcome of a long, physical process that unfolded over 36 years of living with type 2 diabetes. During the first 20 years, from 1990 to 2009, I depended almost entirely on diabetes medications. I did not seriously control how I ate, how much I slept, how often I exercised, or how I managed daily stress. When I later analyzed my long-term data, I found that about 91% of the damage related to my recent stroke had already accumulated during those years. Diabetes slowly hardened and weakened my smallest blood vessels, through vascular calcification and structural injury. From 2010 to 2024, I changed everything. I reduced food portions by 80%, cut sugar and carbohydrates by 70%, walked long distances, more than 10,000 steps, daily, regulated sleep, and actively managed stress. I took no medications, not even vitamins. Over this later 16-year period, aging and residual metabolic stress added only about 9% more damage related to my stroke risk. I was never someone with constant high blood pressure. However, the immediate trigger of my recent stroke was a sudden blood pressure spike to 175 millimeters of mercury on June 21, 2025. That surge caused bleeding in a very sensitive area of the brainstem, a pontine location with an estimated fatality rate of 70% to 80%. After surviving, I reviewed my entire history of life-threatening events. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 1985. Between 1994 and 2003, I suffered 5 heart attacks. At that time, I was the CEO of a Silicon Valley technology company, working under extreme pressure, long hours, and major legal conflicts involving hundreds of millions of dollars. Looking back, I believe those heart attacks were caused by the combined effects of poorly controlled diabetes and extreme stress from my business. I survived largely by luck. In 2010, my health reached a breaking point. I developed severe kidney disease, nerve damage, with foot ulcers that nearly led to amputation, and serious eye damage that almost caused blindness. When these problems appeared together, I finally understood that my body was failing as a system. That year became my wake-up call. Introduction. Between 1994 and 2003, I suffered 5 heart attacks. During that decade, my diabetes was poorly controlled, my stress was extreme, my sleep was irregular, and my life lacked balance. Although I was taking diabetes medications, I made almost no meaningful lifestyle changes. After leaving my executive role in 2002, and gradually moving toward a more structured life, the pattern changed. From 2004 through 2024, more than 20 years, I did not experience a single heart attack or major large artery event. At first glance, this seems contradictory. It is not. The explanation lies in understanding that large arteries and tiny blood vessels behave very differently, and damage in one system does not always cause events in the other at the same time. Large arteries and tiny blood vessels are different systems. Large arteries, such as the coronary arteries, are thick and flexible. Their danger comes from unstable plaque that can suddenly rupture. These arteries are highly sensitive to sudden blood pressure spikes, inflammation, and mechanical stress. Importantly, when overall stress is reduced, large arteries can regain functional stability even after years of accumulated damage. Structural injury may remain, but functional behavior can improve. This is why some aspects are reversible at the functional level. Tiny blood vessels are different. These include vessels in the kidneys, eyes, nerves, and brain. Their walls are thin, with little backup capacity. Long-term exposure to high blood sugar slowly thickens and stiffens them. Once this damage forms, it is largely permanent. It can slow down, but it rarely heals. This difference explains why heart attacks can stop, while small vessel damage continues quietly in the background. How early diabetes damaged my small vessels. From 1990 to 2009, my diabetes was poorly controlled. Medication lowered average glucose numbers but did not control daily spikes, variability, or metabolic stress. Over time, this damaged my smallest blood vessels throughout the body. Years later, that damage appeared as kidney disease, nerve damage, and eye disease. By the time these problems became visible, the structural injury was already done. Those early years permanently reduced my safety margin. Why my heart attacks clustered between 1994 and 2003. My 5 heart attacks during that decade were not random. 3 forces came together. First, diabetes weakened the structure of my large arteries. Second, extreme work stress repeatedly drove blood pressure and heart workload to dangerous levels. Third, diabetes made the vessels fragile, while stress delivered sudden pressure surges that caused rupture. Medication lowered averages, but it did not control peaks. The dangerous spikes remained. Why my heart attack stopped after 2004. After leaving my executive role, extreme stress was removed. Sleep improved. Daily rhythm stabilized. Sudden pressure surges became less frequent. Later, starting in 2010, strict lifestyle control reduced stress even further. Food intake stabilized. Physical activity became consistent. Sleep and routines became predictable. These changes did not erase old damage. They lowered system-wide stress below the rupture threshold. Large arteries stabilized, and heart attacks stopped. Why a stroke still happened in 2025. Although large arteries remained stable, small vessels in my brain had been damaged over 36 years. Aging reduced their flexibility. One sudden blood pressure spike exceeded their tolerance and caused hemorrhage. This does not contradict the value of lifestyle control. It confirms it. Without those changes, the same event would likely have happened much earlier, and I probably would not have survived. Closing reflection. Large artery events are driven by sudden stress on weakened structures. Small vessel damage is driven by long-term metabolic strain. Lifestyle control cannot erase the past, but it can dramatically reduce future risk. In my case, it likely bought me decades of life. I share this not as medical advice, but as lived experience, so others can recognize danger earlier and act before damage becomes irreversible. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only, and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article, and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.